It is indeed a pleasure to join you today for the latest Neftalk. This series, and the Nepal Economic Forum generally, has played a valuable role in facilitating dialogue about the key economic issues facing Nepal. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to add my voice to that conversation. And I hope today's remarks will help explain why, despite many undeniable challenges, I remain so upbeat about Nepal's economic future. My optimism comes not just from the heart, although I care deeply about this country, but it is also from my head, which tells me that this is an economy, that this is a country that is poised to take off in the next decade. I believe it is possible to grow this economy at 8 to 9% per year in the near future, and perhaps even we can achieve double digits. To build the economy, Nepal must compete in the region and the world, looking for new markets and new opportunities. Let's start with the neighbors. In my view, the key to Nepal's economic success. I've heard too long about Nepal being a yam between two boulders. The image conveys a sense of helplessness and vulnerability. Personally, I prefer the perspective offered recently by the Prime Minister, who talks about Nepal as a bridge between India and China. I find this a more compelling metaphor. But turning this slogan into reality requires new ways of thinking, new policies, and a new vision. For example, most trade with China passes through the Tatapani Friendship Bridge, yet the road to the border is in pathetic condition and regularly closes during monsoon. With infrastructure like that, it's nearly impossible to boost bilateral trade. I was frankly surprised and disappointed when so many attacked Prime Minister Bhattarai for signing a bilateral investment protection and promotion agreement, the BIPA, with India. For me, the BIPA makes perfect sense. Nepal has many such trade and investment agreements, and this is no different. The BIPA will only help Nepal attract much needed investment and open up opportunities for Nepali businesses in India. When calls to protect Nepali nationalism lead to protectionism, Nepal loses. This misplaced nationalism, as one Nepali banker called it, has the exact opposite of the intended effect. It undermines Nepal's economic growth and export potential, making Nepal even more dependent on external remittances and trade with India. In addition to thinking about its neighbors differently, Nepal must carefully think about its competitive advantage in today's globalized economy. It's obvious to any observer that the export opportunities of yesterday are not those of today. I, for one, think Nepal is unlikely to be competitive in large-scale garment manufacturing, regardless of the tariff benefits offered. IT, though, is but one sector where I think Nepal could compete successfully in the international arena, and I'm sure there are many others. But it requires creative thought. It requires you to look at the world and think about it differently. As Nepal integrates into the global economy, attracting foreign direct investment is also essential. Every economist will tell you that domestic capital alone is not sufficient for a country like Nepal. Loans from the World Bank or ADB are not sufficient. For Nepal's economy to grow as it should, the country must attract private capital. Investors, however, need more than words. Words are easy, but progress requires action as well as words. Investors want security. They want attractive returns, and they want to be able to get their money out. Investors look for stability and predictability in economic policy and regulatory decision-making. When an investor goes to a ministry for a decision, they expect clear guidance and consistent policies, not shifting rules and constant rotations in civil service personnel. One of the lessons I take from Bihar's economic miracle is the importance the state government places on transparency, a key part of its success in attracting investment. It's important to understand that in today's world, investors are not looking at Nepal or investing in Nepal in isolation. They're comparing opportunities in Nepal with those in Bangladesh, in Cambodia, or Burma, or Uganda. To attract investors, Nepal needs to offer the right incentives and protections. Other countries do this, and Nepal must do the same to be competitive. Being competitive also means changing Nepal's business culture to adjust to modern realities in the global environment. In my time here, I've seen the business culture begin to evolve. Many of Nepal's family-run business houses are modernizing and professionalizing their operations. This is encouraging, but must continue. Businesses need professional managers and transparent accounting systems. They must be responsible partners in Nepal's development, paying their taxes and supporting social projects. And the focus must shift from making a quick buck to investing in the future. Nepal's business organizations, from FNCCI to CNI to the myriad of bilateral and sector-specific chambers, including the Nepal-US Chamber, have an important role to play. In the past, some of these associations seemed more interested in promoting the narrow interests of individual members than Nepal's overall economic development. Thankfully, there are signs of change in these organizations, for these bodies too must evolve or risk becoming irrelevant. The same is true of labor unions, which should promote the interests of workers, not political causes or individual leaders. Unions too will increasingly become less relevant unless they change with the times. The stability of the domestic labor market is a crucial factor for potential investors deciding whether or not to come to Nepal. Foreign assistance alone will not bring the sustainable development and inclusive economic growth that Nepalis want and that they deserve. Sustainable development requires host country ownership, leadership, commitment to policy reform, and ultimately private sector-led investment. In the coming years, I'm convinced that the driver of Nepal's economic growth will not only be the new generation of leadership in the large business houses, but also the young entrepreneurs, men and women with creative ideas and the skills to build businesses and create jobs. Young men and women who are increasingly stepping forward. I regularly meet with many young Nepalis, some of whom have studied or worked abroad and who are now putting their imagination and skills to work in Nepal, growing this country's economy. They too give me hope for the future.